Topping today's news, Inland Revenue about to enforce new regulations for liquor licenses. Pintard and Dr. Minnis share their thoughts on possible boundary cuts for Killarney. 24 young Bahamians graduate from the maritime training course. And if you own an Airbnb, the government is urging you to register with Inland Revenue. This is your JCN Evening News. I'm Jarino Saunders. It's a pleasure to have you join us. The government has heard the cries of many Bahamian citizens about the proliferation of liquor stores in close proximity, especially in the inner city. New legislation that came into force on July 1st has new requirements for those in the liquor business. We'll hear more about the reasons behind the new regulations in this next report by Tania Brown.
Obtaining a new liquor license or renewing a liquor license will not be as easy as it has been in the Bahamas. The government has introduced new regulations that will address the high concentration of liquor establishments, including bars, restaurants, and liquor stores, both wholesale and retail, in densely populated, economically fragile areas. While at the office of the Prime Minister on Thursday, Shonda Strawn, acting controller at the Department of Inland Revenue, had this notice for those already in or seeking to operate in the liquor business.
If you're in the liquor business, there's now a whole new level of application, I could say, that you're going to have to go through. There's now the process of being registered. So prior to July 1, if you were in the liquor business, and what does it mean to be in the liquor business? It means that you sell liquor wholesale, retail, restaurant, bar, any of those types of establishments that really sell liquor. You now need to go through 2 steps before you're allowed to operate. Prior to July 1, you just required the business license. And you did whatever was required under the Business License Act to get a business license. But now, all entities within the liquor arena are required to be registered.
That registration fee will be $100 for wholesale and retail liquor stores and $50 for bars and restaurants, and must be submitted 90 days ahead of applying for a liquor license. According to Ms. Strawn, the registration will then prompt a series of actions by Inland Revenue.
Revenue has to notify the public that Ms. Keishla is planning on opening a liquor store through Bird Flu Alley, right? And we would have to publish to the public to let them know where this new liquor store is going to be. And not only do we have to notify the public, but we do have to get consultation or have consultation. And so the 5th schedule requires that if you are applying for a new liquor license, you have to apply for registration 90 days prior, and then the department has to do some things, which includes, aside from us checking out Ms. Keishla's character and making sure that she's going to be in the right location. She's not next door to a school or a church or those types of things. They're kind of normal things that physical planning would have done under the Business License Act. But there's a whole new set of requirements for the Department of Inland Revenue to carry out prior to registering a new liquor business. If you already have a liquor business and you're really only trying to renew your license, you still have to come back to the Department of Inland Revenue. And you have to apply again for registration or the renewal of your registration.
Strawn noted that Inland Revenue will also have to take into consideration any number of other concerns before issuing new liquor licenses or renewing old ones.
You're going to consider the concentration of liquor stores in the area that you're trying to open the liquor store in. Of course, as I said before, proximity to schools and places of worship, the suitability of the premises, and that's a new thing. That's something, while our sister agencies, Physical Planning and Ministry of Works, paid attention to the structure and the location. We now have this new thing called the suitability of the premises. And I don't know if you're aware, there's some new types of businesses that opened since COVID. Ever drove past and just seeing people line up? You know you have takeaways, so Bahamians are accustomed to lining up to get food to a takeout window. But there's some new things that came about where you line up and you go to a liquor store and you're getting served through a window. And so that's something we're going to be very watchful of. And you pay attention to that because there are some new, I would say, restrictions that may be enforced for those types of businesses.
Again, these new regulations came into force on July 1st, at the beginning of the new fiscal year. Reporting for Jcn News, I'm Tania Brown.
Thanks for that report, Tania. The Boundaries Commission reported to Prime Minister Philip Davis late last year. It was another sign that the 2026 general elections are not far off. In recent times, there have also been discussions surrounding possible adjustments to some of the constituency boundaries and the possible addition of 2 new constituencies, one on Grand Bahama and another here in New Providence, southwest New Providence, because of the high number of voters in the Killarney and Golden Isles constituency, both those constituencies with more than 7,000 registered voters. The desired number of voters per constituency should be between 5,000 and 4,500. F&M leader Michael Pintard shared his thoughts on the work of the Boundaries Committee.
We're hearing lots of things. The government ought to make sure that there are regular meetings of the Boundaries Commission. They ought to be transparent in terms of what their intentions are, and it should be governed by what is in the best interest of equity and parity. And so we'll have a lot to say about whatever it is that they propose. But we know one thing for sure. You could change the lines, but you can't change the minds.
We were also able to prick the brain of the incumbent Member of Parliament for Killarney, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who has said he intends to run in the Killarney constituency with or without an F&M nomination. Here is what he had to say about possible boundary changes to his constituency.
I know that they will make shifts. My constituency has a large number and it had to be done. And I'm certain that it will be done. But in spite of that, I will be there and Killarney will support me.
Members of the Boundaries Commission include Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper, the Member of Parliament for Tall Pines, Dr. Michael Darville, along with F&M Deputy Leader Shannon Dawn Cartwright and Justice Gregory Hilton, who has been appointed by the Chief Justice. Today, Friday, 24 members of the Maritime Cohort, that is a part of the National Apprenticeship Program, graduated. This pilot cohort consisted of 50 members, while at the graduation ceremony at the Nassau Cruise Port, Minister of Labor Pierre Glover Rowe spoke to the importance of this program.
So the National Apprenticeship Program is a response to the needs in our labor market. A very important response because as we want to continue to develop the labor force, we have to do so strategically. We have to ensure that we're placing labor into the gap areas of our labor force. Last week, we graduated our first pre-apprenticeship cohort of construction apprentices, and today we are graduating our maritime pre-apprentice cohort. 2 very important sectors where we experience gaps. You would hear the Bahamas Contractors Association always speak to the need for more skilled Bahamian laborers. And that is what this program responds to. It responds to ensuring that we have Bahamians trained for the labor force and be able to respond to the areas that are most required.
There has been an ongoing need for more skilled Bahamian workers, and this program directly addressed a need by training more Bahamians and exposing them to various task forces, including careers in the maritime industry.
We're happy to be able to partner with industry partners like the Nassau Cruise Port, like Harborside Marine, Marlin Marine, the Mailboat Company, who are onboarding these apprentices to give them hands-on, on-the-job experience as we continue to train them in soft skills and other skills that help them enter the work market.
The graduation comes a week after that of the construction cohort graduation ceremony. The new maritime graduates will begin job interviews next week. The government said it remains committed to training Bahamians in the efforts to reduce the amount of foreign workers needed in the country and to reduce the unemployment numbers. Finally, in this segment, in addition to liquor licenses, on Thursday at the Office of the Prime Minister, Acting Controller at the Department of Inland Revenue, Shonda Strawn, also addressed the public to clarify value-added tax requirements for short-term rental properties, or Airbnbs, of which they believe there are more than 20,000 Airbnbs registered or existing in the Bahamas.
So the Department of Inland Revenue implemented more than 2 years ago, in 2023, a short-term vacation portal. Now, this portal is not just an inland revenue portal, it's really the portal used by the government. And so the purpose of the portal really is to gather information. And so if you're in the arena of renting properties on a short-term basis, the government needs to know that you're in that arena. So by and large, we need to know that you are renting properties. Again, this first registration does not mean that we're taxing you. All right? So I want Bahamians to especially realize that just because you're renting properties does not mean that you're going to be taxed.
Ms. Strawn said the registration information is used not only by Inland Revenue, but also by the Ministry of Tourism to track activity in the short-term rental sector. She explained it can also benefit homeowners by making them eligible for certain incentives.
Whether you're Bahamian, whether you're foreign, whether you have a property on the Family Islands or in New Providence, it doesn't matter where, you should register your properties in the short-term vacation rental portal. And again, what that does, it allows the government to gather information on who's participating in the arena. That information is not only used by Inland Revenue, it's used by the Ministry of Tourism especially, because they really regulate that arena. But it's used for different reasons. Like, for example, if the government is going to give grants to persons in that arena, I'm sure you will be mindful, or you're aware, that several, maybe months ago now, the government gave grants to persons who have short-term properties on the Family Islands, and that went pretty well. Matter of fact, the Minister of Tourism, Deputy Prime Minister, said how well that program went and that they really plan to do it again. And so if you're going to benefit from the government's initiatives in the whole industry of short-term vacation rental, you need to register with us in the portal so that we know that you're out there.
Everyone involved in Airbnb rentals can register through the official online portal on the Inland Revenue's website. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back following these commercials.